Well, these were 2 days, 2 incredible days, full of exclusive speakers, presentations, and discussions. And besides a number of important things and takeaways, actually, I noted for myself a few that cannot be measured, quantified, or regulated in some way. And I heard that what's important, first of all, it's communication. Communication between the sectors, between people. Second of all, it's learning from the best peer examples. And finally, it's relationships, people to people and people to infrastructure. Let's remember that, and I wish you all great success with all your ideas and all your projects in the future. And now I would like to welcome on stage once again our honorary chair of our summit, Arnoldas Pranckevičius, to close our summit.
Good afternoon already, ladies and gentlemen, and congratulations with 2 very successful days at this first Pan-Baltic Infrastructure Summit. Big thanks to both organizers, indeed Bolcap and Cobalt, without whom this wonderful event would not have happened, and big thanks to the Vilnius railway station to have hosted you those 2 days. And probably the biggest thanks is to all the passengers who were patient with all of us and used the side entries in order to board their trains and reach their destinations. That is also showing a very good public and private partnership. All the issues which were discussed during those 2 days of the conference are indeed priorities also of the European Commission. The views shared correspond to our current thinking in Juncker's team. Smart cities, renewable energy, diversified financial instruments, importance of innovations, and involvement of private capital. We are really like-minded in that way. We learned yesterday from Alexander Stubb, the Vice President of European Investment Bank, that EIB is our bank. EIB is EU bank, which is becoming the heart of EU investments in infrastructure. We also learned and debated that the future of EU financing is changing and will have to change. After 2020, we will need to look at how to improve efficiency of the EU financing. One of the ways to do so is to use more loans and more financial instruments instead of direct subsidies. And here, of course, the role of EFSI, of EIB, of EBRD, and other institutions is critical. This way, infrastructure financing will be able to attract more private funding. That will allow the Baltic states to become less dependent on structural funds and public sector financing. In fact, to become a bit more mature and self-confident. Importance, of course, of structural funds and reforms of the member states and improvement of investment climate remain key and major issues for improvement. During your conference, you discussed at big extent the infrastructure investments. We learned from Sergei Guriev that somewhere up to 1.9 trillion euros of investments in infrastructure are still needed over the next 5 years in the EBRD area. This is immense and really mind-boggling sum and very big ambition. What we need, of course, is clear, stable and independent area from political headwinds, regulatory framework. And of course, it's also extremely important to invite more private capital into the projects. Value of private sector partnership. Private sector participation adds to efficiency and timeless of the projects. Strategic planning, long-term vision for investments, efficiency of investments, attraction of the private investments, making projects more bankable and viable are becoming the most important factors for successful implementation of infrastructure projects. We also learned that urban infrastructure currently is mostly, the trends of it are concentrated in the capital cities. We also learned that slow urban growth, which is caused due to the fact that workers are emigrating and pensioners are staying. We observed that main obstacles to develop urban infrastructure are lack of political will, lack of skills, and poor governance effectiveness. We, however, learned from Vilnius mayor at this stage that Vilnius is an open city, accepting new tools, being very fast in making decisions, like in the case of Uber, and indeed trying to be smart. We learned also that key ingredients for a smart, sustainable, and livable cities are strong and accountable leadership, continuous citizens' engagement, sustainable relationship with the private sector, efficient public transport, measuring and evaluating impact, learning from peers. We also talked a lot about renewables, especially here in this region, in the Baltic region, as the future of transport is indeed sustainable transport powered by renewable energy. More and more we need investments in this area, and we have to understand that renewables are the most advantageous for our investments. We also talked about new technologies. Vilnius mayor talked about fintech, IT, laser, biotech, all other areas which are the areas of the future. Today, as we speak, the leaders of the European Union are gathering in Tallinn at the first ever digital summit and talking about digitalization of European Union, about the creation of the digital single market. And it's good news that our leaders are above the curve and not behind the curve in these very important developments in Europe and the world, which of course will in major way also influence the world of infrastructure. We talked about Rail Baltica this morning and all the benefits that this project will bring to this region. We also discussed at very length about the public and private partnerships and how to improve their effectiveness. And we learned that the best way to do PPPs is doing PPPs, even though it sometimes might be difficult, cumbersome, and indeed taking a lot of energy and patience. We talked about energy infrastructure which will never be the same, given the innovations that are being implemented. We also understood the strategic imperative of energy infrastructure in this part of the region to finally and fully establish for once and for all the energy independence of the Baltic states. And as we speak, President Grybauskaitė is meeting President Juncker in Tallinn to discuss the synchronization project of the Baltic states to the European electric networks. One of the very key ambitions of this region to finally be connected and interconnected with European partners and leave the energy dependence of the past. So all of those issues, all of them are very important, and all of them you've discussed in very big detail, are of course the issues of the future, not of the past. And as we talk about infrastructure, we probably should remember also what Mr. Guriev told us yesterday. Will connecting the cities help people to leave, or will actually enable people to stay and create jobs and opportunities where they are? And probably the hope of all of us is that improving infrastructure, making it 21st century quality infrastructure, will actually not only help people to move and travel, but most importantly, to create jobs and employment at their places of living. Especially important for the Baltic states, given a massive shrinking population and immigration challenges. And taking in mind that Lithuania has always been the place where the Silk Road crosses the Amber Road, let's hope that in the future it will be also the place where the Rail Baltica crosses the Hyperloop. And for the next infrastructure summit, and for the future infrastructure summit, say in 10 years, most of you will come to the summit via Rail Baltica in no more than an hour or two from your capitals in Riga and Tallinn. And if necessary, during the coffee breaks, if you don't like the nice coffee of Vilnius, you could jump on the Hyperloop in a half hour, go home, take a coffee in Riga, Tallinn, or Warsaw, and be back for the next session in the afternoon. This is a very ambitious future vision, but I think the vision that we have to dream about, and it starts here today at this first Pan-Baltic Infrastructure Summit, with which I congratulate you most heartedly. And as yesterday in the European Commission we adopted the new rules of rail passengers, one of the main important rights of the rail passengers is not only to board the train, but also to exit the train. So while you have entered this wonderful train station, now you are receiving a green light to also exit it with new ideas, with brand enthusiasm, and continue your networks and your friendships at the networking lunch, which will be the closing event of this program. I wish you most success, and thank you so much again for coming to Vilnius. Thank you.